Hello, my name's Carl and welcome back to the workshop. Now, some of my most popular videos have been around my Makita saws and the guide rails. One of the most popular questions that I'm asked is, when I've got a new guide rail, how do you go about trimming the Splinter-guard? And I've got a new 1000mm Makita guide rail. This wasn't available actually when I took a 1400mm guide rail and cut it in half, and we'll be taking a look at trimming back the Splinter-guard on this in a moment. I'll show you how I do it, and the other thing I want to show you is how to make waist side cuts with the track with some little guides that I have, but that's all coming up. Okay, so if we take a look at this Splinter-guard, it's this rubber piece at the edge of the aluminium track. The idea is that the saw will come along and trim this off, and then the edge of the Splinter-guard really represents the edge of the kerf of the cut. I've got a couple of scrap pieces of MDF here, and we'll be trimming the Splinter-guard with these. We lay the Splinter-guard on the MDF. Near the edge, if you don't want to waste too much material. I'd quite like to keep some of this back. But the important thing is that the actual rubber of the Splinter-guard is fully supported on both sides of the cut. So the first thing you need to do is to make a shallow cut, no more than 2 to 3 millimeters into the underlying workpiece. I'm making mine with a SP6000 track saw. So the important thing is, once you've started the saw, doesn't matter whether it's a circular saw or a plunge saw, the blade needs to be at full speed to make a clean cut. You need to run the saw blade through the material at a fairly even rate, applying consistent pressure to the handle of the saw as the cut through and out the other side. And there we go, nicely trimmed back. Now, if you make a mistake in doing this, or just through use you find your Splinter-guard being nicked, then you can buy a replacement, the replacement rubber strip. I get mine from Axminster. To do 2 complete full-length rails will cost about £10 to replace this strip, and then you just go and trim the edge like you do with new ones. Simple as that. Okay, so a bonus tip for you now, and this is going to help you if what you intend doing is making cuts and saving the waist side. So the trouble with doing cuts where you want to keep the waist side is you have to account for the kerf of the blade, which is in my case 2.2 millimeters. So if I put my rail directly against my 5 center mark, of course I'm going to lose 2.2 millimeters, which is the width of the kerf, from the material that I wanted. So I've seen a couple of methods using spacers, but I've come up with one now where if I use this sort of credit card size spacer, it has a ridge running down the middle which is exactly 2.2 millimeters wide, and I can basically then account for the width of the kerf when I set my saw up, and then I'll repeat the opposite end of the blade of the rail, and there I'm set up now for a 5 centimeter cut. So let's go ahead and make that. So let's check the width of my cut, and that is spot on, exactly 5 centimeters. So there we go, a couple of homemade, home 3D printed jigs for setting this particular saw up for a waist side cut. So there you go, a couple of quick tips for the Makita guide rail and track saw. I haven't done a review of the plunge saw itself. I may well do that in the coming weeks. If you want to see that, then please leave a comment down below. And for now, from the workshop, cheerio.